Jalen Hurts leads with concussion and does not return. The Eagles force 5 turnovers on defense and still come away with a heartbreaking 36-33 loss. And we are, of course, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. We're going to hear from Zach Berman from the Commanders Stadium. We'll probably hear from Nick Sirianni as well. We have so much to talk about in this game in which a DeVonta Smith drop kills the Eagles at the end and allows the opportunity for Jalen Daniels to lead the Commanders down the field for the game-winning touchdown. Vinny, I see Super Bowl champion Vinny Curry, by the way, also Jamie Lynch and Fran Duffy here to talk about it all. But Vinny, I see how down you are. That's just a tough one to take.
Man, it's just
nice PHLY beanie though. We
appreciate it, man. Make sure y'all get y'all merch.
Company,
but
man.
This was heartbreaking because when you watch the body of the game, we really kicked their ass, and to lose like this, it just hurts.
And what is so brutal is the preceding defensive possession. It's like this is the chance for the defense to go out there and win a game, and they do it. A beautiful team play with Josh Sweat getting the rush, Nakobe Dean adding in to force the throw. Darius Slay tips the ball, and Reed Blankenship gets the interception, sets the Eagles up for where they just basically need a first down to win the game. And Kenny Pickett, who we will talk about, hits DeVonta Smith in the hands for a slant that should have been the icer, and he just drops the ball, Fran.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many individual moments when you have games like this that you could point to, and you could say, well, this would have been good to have this play. You talk about that long scramble on 4th down from Jaden Daniels. You have the drop pass from DeVonta Smith. You had some blown coverages on the back end. Even plays that go back to the first half. Guys are going to be kicking themselves for a handful of those moments in these games, but at the end of the day, this offense scored 12 points from after the first quarter. Saquon Barkley had 41 rushing yards after the first quarter. You talk about the defense forcing 5 turnovers, but it was a very feast or famine day from this defense where you're giving up a bunch of touchdowns. What did they score? 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter alone? The
22
Washington
points in the fourth quarter.
At the end of the day, like that's not good enough if you're going to try and get a win. If you're trying to clinch a playoff spot, you're trying to beat a division rival. Those lines are not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, everybody takes a piece of this one.
Yeah.
But I also think you force 5 turnovers, the offense should do better. They scored 13 points total off of those 5 turnovers, a touchdown on the first one.
Yep.
And then after that, nothing, field goal in the second half. And Jamie, the upshot here now is that the Eagles are not going to be the number 1 seed. It is not officially over, but they would need to win their last 2 games, have Detroit lose both of their last 2 games, and Minnesota lose their next 2 games before beating Detroit in Week 18. That's not going to happen. And so this team now, having Jalen Hurts suffering this concussion, who knows what his status will be next week, you could maybe squint and convince yourself this is an opportunity for them to maybe calm down, and this is their chance to get the rest that they otherwise would have gotten with a bye.
Well, if they are on a crash course here with the Commanders in a playoff matchup, I can predict where I would have been in like 3 or 4 weeks, where I would have been going, oh, man, really hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. So they got that out of the way. So, like all is good. I hope I never see Kenny Pickett play quarterback again. I missed Jalen Hurts a lot today. And it does feel a lot like that Falcons game where like maybe it's that game you shouldn't have won, but you did win, and then a drop just kind of shot. That was like the nail in the coffin.
Drop in that game, and then
you
have the DeVonta drop in this game.
And it's impossible to be upset with DeVonta because he's so good, and what he does week in and week out is excellent. But man, like that's the game right there. So that's 2 of their 3 losses are on plays where if somebody just secures the ball, you win. That's tough. That is tough, but life goes on. I mean, the defense was human today, and I think that's more where my focus was. Jaden Daniels ripped him up. 5 touchdowns. I mean, my boy Quinyon got he let up a touchdown. That's not like him.
And a few huge plays with his legs for Jaden Daniels. That 4th and 11 in the fourth quarter where he scrambles. A huge play there that the Eagles got to stop there. That game is all but over. Daniels finishes with 24 of 39 passing for 258 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 9 carries for 81 yards. And you mentioned it, Jamie. All signs now point to this probably being the matchup in the first round of the playoffs in the wild card round. The Commanders coming to Philadelphia as the 7 seed versus the 2 seed. Vinny, you kind of like that matchup. Yeah.
I mean, look at it like this. Before the Jalen Hurts go down, this was going to be a slaughter. You know? So
Yeah.
If that's what we got to look forward to, how that first quarter went in the playoffs, then sign me up for it.
And this was a game between these two teams. Obviously, division rivals, you're always expecting some chippiness. This was a very chippy game. C.J. Gardner-Johnson gets disqualified for having 2 personal fouls. The officiating in this game was extremely up and down on both sides. Even on the game-winning touchdown pass, looked like the right tackle was offsides. You saw the Commanders guys doing the BG celebration. I know you didn't like that. And so, yeah, I mean, this is like all signs now, a 3-week waiting period for a collision course between these two teams that right now don't like each other very much.
Which is awesome. That's great NFL playoff theater. I'm not worried about them coming into the link in that environment. I know Jaden Daniels played excellent today, but put him on the road in the playoffs at the link. It's a totally different game.
Possibility that we have seen Jalen Hurts' last regular season action of this game, because if he's ruled out next week and then the Eagles are locked into the 2 seed week,
there's no reason to play him.
No reason to play him. My guess is if he's coming off that, they would probably give him like the first half or something like that. But this is going to be interesting. What did you make of Pickett's performance, Fran?
Yeah, it obviously wasn't great, and there's a lot that you could. But look, here's at the end of the day, he's a backup quarterback. He's
so is Tanner McKee.
Yeah, well, you weren't going to see McKee today. Like, we weren't going to see McKee today.
14 of 24 for 143 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for Pickett, 3 carries for 13
It felt
yards.
so much worse than that stat line.
It did, but that's, I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's also the handful of plays that went incomplete because they were drawing pass interference penalties from A.J. Brown. That's hidden yardage there. I think that Pickett was fine, maybe. I think that's probably generous. He wasn't ideal. They were 3 for 13 on 3rd down in this game.
They certainly didn't seem like they trusted him.
No, and look, I think my guess is it would probably look a little bit different if you go into the full week with him as the starter. This is kind of what you get though when you see backup quarterbacks step into games right now around the NFL. Backup quarterback play is not great when you look around the league, and so at the end of the day, you need everybody else to kind of pick it up, and that's on both sides of the ball. And the Eagles didn't get enough of it.
We talked about it during the watch along, and we hope you did join us with the watch along. And by the way, we're chasing that 300 or 30,000 subscribers. So if you are just watching for the first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button for PHLY. We talked about this. Howie Roseman's offseason. Most of the returns, very, very good, right? You throw Devin White to the side, but obviously Zach Bond has been a home run. So many other moves. Obviously Saquon. Bryce Huff, we can get to him. They might get him back, but Mekhi Becton has been huge. But Kenny Pickett was a big part of that. They traded the equivalent of a 4th-round pick for moments like this, to have a reliable number 2 quarterback for a situation where you're going to be fighting for the number 1 seed and you got to replace Jalen Hurts. And when they had a guy in Tanner McKee who they did like internally and probably outplayed Kenny Pickett during the summer, they go to Pickett. And in this game, it's not even necessarily that he was so disappointing. It's just that the whole point of having a reliable number 2 quarterback with starting experience is so that the offense can trust him. And you can say, guess what? Like, it's okay to just throw the ball to A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. And you saw the way that the defense was teeing off on Saquon Barkley in the second half, Vinny. That did not seem to really be the case.
No, you know what? Boy, when it comes down to those last couple of drives, that Saquon drop where Bobby Wagner just forces it out.
Yeah.
If Bobby Wagner doesn't force it out, you feel me? And then
and Devonta catches the ball.
Devonta dropped.
Mr.
I know.
Clutch,
Kenny Pickett threw the game when he passed.
Smitty, listen, everyone out there, I would have called that same play. If you watched, I don't know if you watched the game live with us. I would have called that same exact play. I'm not mad at him for dropping that pass because the man never drops any passes, but that was 6 right there.
I mean, that one's going to eat him up.
Yeah.
That's if they get that conversion.
Probably the game. Yeah.
It's probably the game. It's the 2-minute warning. Commanders have one timeout.
Right.
Yep.
So you're going to run one play. They're going to call timeout. Even if you don't get a first down, they would get the ball back with like 30 seconds left, maybe a little bit under that, with having to score a touchdown. Not impossible. And if certainly they won a game this season on a Hail Mary. But
if you would have asked me, like, I would have never guessed that defense would give up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm like, your gut of anger kind of leans a certain way. I mean, I hate to put this on the defense, but, when you create 5 turnovers, you got to win a football game. And it's kind of unbelievable that they have 5 turnovers and we're sitting here talking about a loss.
It's a much different style of defensive performance than we've seen from them all season long, right? This is only the second time in Nick Sirianni's entire coaching career with the Eagles in which the Eagles have lost a game in which they won the turnover battle. And that one was they just won by 1 against the Kansas City Chiefs in 2021. To win by, I mean, it's technically 3 because Avonte Maddox fumbled it on the last play of the game.
Okay.
It's really 4.
Right.
I mean, it's a 5-1 turnover battle.
So I found this.
And yet they gave up so many deep plays, which we haven't seen all season.
Yeah.
This was 9 years ago, so obviously this is the most I could find in my quick crack research. Teams that have 5 turnovers all time had only lost out of 1,500 games about 185 of them. So it's a very rare thing to have 5 turnovers and lose.
It's why it's like everybody does share a part of it, because when you get 5 turnovers, even if you're giving up big plays, that should be enough on defense.
5 turnovers and you score into the 30s,
right? And
like you need to win.
The offense didn't carry its load off of those turnovers, and yet the defense did also give up a bunch of big plays that they haven't done all season.
Right. And special teams wasn't great either in this game.
Kickoff return, kickoff coverage especially was put them
bunch of short fields. I mean, especially at the end. I mean, you instead of getting a touchback and they get the ball in the 30, you're starting at the 47. You gifted them basically an extra first down, an extra series of downs there by poor kickoff coverage.
So where does the Zach Berman blame for Crowder go? Does he get a hand in this?
Zach's going to be peacocking all over this postgame show.
He has a pretty big hand in this elbow.
You played with Jamison Crowder, right?
Yeah.
Just okay.
Wait.
He scored the game when he touched it.
But
2 touchdowns.
I'm curious to see what you like once the film come out and when you put it out. I'm curious to see if that's CJ's spot where CJ is supposed to be. We're not expecting him to get thrown out that game. You know, and CJ was balling. You know what I mean? So it's just they took advantage of our wounds.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I couldn't pinpoint it watching live. What went so wrong there, and what made Jaden Daniels have such a spectacular day? But something felt off.
Yeah, I mean, there's the long completion to De'Ami Brown past Darius Slay, who I thought otherwise had a very good game.
Who did have a good game?
Your boy Quinyon Mitchell gives up a deep touchdown to Terry McLaurin, sort of gets turned around there, and then some of those open field plays from Jaden Daniels. But, I mean, the Eagles defense, they also forced a turnover on downs on the first possession of the game.
It's very
weird.
Really
getting the ball back to the offense 6 times. That should be good enough. Now, this was a game with a lot of possessions.
Sure.
So it's a little bit different. But, when you score 21 points in the first half or the first quarter and then 12 points the rest of the game for the offense, you need more.
Yeah.
Now, how does this change your Jalen Hurts opinion at all?
I appreciate him a whole lot more because even when he's not having his best days or maybe he's slow to get rid of the ball, he's always accurate. And there was a couple balls today, like the one over by the sideline, I think it was to AJ, was inside too much.
Yeah, there were a few of those. You're right.
Yeah, like he just wasn't putting there was a couple, and to his credit, the one pass that was dropped in the end zone was money from Kenny. But for the most part, like I noticed the accuracy the most. Like Jalen puts the ball in really accurate spots. And I think a couple times today that bit Kenny where...
What are you smiling at, Fran?
I think because I've already gotten like multiple text messages. I've seen it in the chat. I saw it in the chat on the watch along as well. Like basically saying like, oh, like all the Jalen Hurts hate, like, oh, that's got to stop. There's like it can be somewhere in the middle where Jalen is not as bad as Kenny Pickett, and so therefore he's devoid of all criticism. You could say like it's okay to say like he needs to play better, while also saying like Kenny Pickett is a backup quarterback.
I will say this: the offense look a little rattled without him out on the field.
Yeah,
I just think like when
there was some protection issues, just setting protection.
The air got sucked out of this when he wasn't there. He calms everybody down. I think the demeanor that we see post game, that's who he is, and that's how the team is. Like Lawrence,
there is something.
You feel me? It's like every level was like that. But I thought today it was just like.
And it was when Saquon started getting like shut down that I think that uneasiness started to kind of ramp up a little bit more because. Fran said it in the watch along. They sold out to stop the run, and they were getting in that backfield quick.
I mean, this would be the devil's advocate argument against Saquon Barkley as an MVP candidate. Like, would you have felt better in this game if Kenny Gainwell was playing running back next to Saquon Barkley than if it was Saquon Barkley with Kenny Pickett? And you saw after that first quarter how much he got shut down.
Yeah, but to the point about like the calmness, I do think like look, you had doll hands in there.
But I also think. In the second half, every time they ran counter, it was successful. 3 to 4 yards or more. Anything outside of that, it was like, oof, you know what I mean? So,
Fran, what did you make of like just the way that they were calling this game once it became clear it was the Kenny Pickett show?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to go back and kind of look at the film and see what they were seeing. But when we talked about it at halftime, it was all right. What are the adjustments that they have to make offensively? And to me, it was you still have to come out and try and throw the ball because you knew that they were going to come out and try and sell it. Yeah, they did, and they came out, and that's when we saw 2 straight plays for AJ Brown drawing PI, and there was like 3 and then over the first 2 drives.
There is some hidden yardage there in Pickett and AJ Brown's favor.
So you had to come out and show that you were willing to throw the football, you're willing to take advantage of those one-on-one matchups. But too often, and we talked even referencing back to Week 11 when these two teams played. Washington gave that offensive line fits up front because of some of the things they did from a slanting standpoint, especially against their zone run schemes where they were, Saquon couldn't really get going until the latter stages of that game. Remember, that's the game where they hit on a couple of those trap plays, those wham plays in the fourth quarter, and then the dam broke. And that's when you saw Saquon go up the middle for, 40 yards and a touchdown and then come back on the next drive and go 60 yards for a touchdown. It was honestly the opposite of this game where all of his yardage came in the first quarter. In that one, everything happened late. But for the most part, I mean, over, we'll say 6 out of 8 quarters, this Washington defensive line has really given the Eagles offensive line fits from a run game standpoint and really forced them to try and win through the air.
You also see even more the disparity of how funneled this offense gets when you had Kenny Pickett at quarterback. I mean, the Eagles had 25 targeted passes in this game. 23 of them were to A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, and there's 1 for Kenny Gainwell, 1 for Saquon Barkley.
I was just thinking
they just don't throw to the other guys.
The Commanders threw to at least 5 guys, if not possibly 6. Like they spread the ball around.
They kind of have to, yeah, right.
9 guys.
8 of them get a catch.
Yeah, I mean Crowder, Brown, McLaurin, Zach's boy Crowder, but the Eagles,
John Bates, don't forget.
I saw people saying that the Eagles should grab Deontay Johnson, and while like part of me agrees with that, just to get some talent in here for depth, why? Like they don't throw to anybody outside of AJ or DeVonta, so like, is it even worth it?
That guy's been on 3 teams in 8 months.
Yeah, it should probably tell you something.
We've kind of found out. Yeah.
But like to the point,
maybe
they don't throw to anybody.
Maybe like Odell or somebody,
Yeah.
They don't throw to anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, your boy Grant Calcaterra, he wasn't even
targeted.
Yeah. That's kind of a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, I think it is an issue. I think you would think you could scheme something up.
Yeah, I think one thing we've seen from this offense this year, and even going back, I feel like we've said the same things last year as well, was if a guy got lost mid-game or late in the week in practice. Remember when A.J. Brown got hurt earlier this year, late in the week? The offense just came out and was kind of like out of sorts. It was like they need that full week of all right, like this is what the game plan's going to be. But if it happened either mid-game or late in the practice week, that's where the offense just came out and didn't have those answers.
Yeah, I believe that if they come out next week and Jalen is out, that if they have the full week of game planning for Kenny Pickett, I would imagine we would see a better game plan.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think there's something to that.
But once again, you drop the 2 balls. We it's a different conversation here. We start talking about
absolutely
how Kenny came in and won the game. So I just don't think that. I don't just want to be clear that
sometimes you just get weird games.
I mean,
like they lost.
This is a weird game.
They lost obviously Jalen Hurts. They lose Josh Sweat for most of this game, then he comes back at the end. CJ Gardner-Johnson gets thrown out. Some of the penalties misses some time. Yeah, you get the weird penalty calls. And some of the non-penalty calls. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just get weird games.
Listen,
but that's why it's difficult
we are going to be sitting here
15-2.
It's just go get y'all back, Washington. Goddamn.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news is that we're going to see this game again probably in 3
Sounds
weeks.
like
good.
I think the Eagles should feel good about that.
Yeah,
they should.
That defensive performance is not happening again.
No.
I mean, hat tip to Jaden Daniels. He was pretty spectacular today.
Right. And yet, it's also, I mean, it's fair to say that if you just think about like the Eagles' chances to win the Super Bowl, there's obviously such a huge difference between the 2 seed and the 1 seed. This game today, this very weird game, is going to go a long way.
And if I'm Philly, I'm not even watching this tape. Just move past this. I'm not. Flush it, keep it pushing.
Even though you might have to play this team again. Wait to rewatch it the week of that game.
No, but now Washington defense had to readjust their original game plan.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying to you? So
right, so you think it doesn't matter?
No. Once Washington got on a roll, the game plan changes for them. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't want the Eagles or the players to walk around with their head down, let this hangover. You know what I'm saying? Let's not let this hangover. Let's take a deep breath. Let's just get ready for next week's game and then game plan the way we know how to game plan. Because like I said, the first quarter, Jalen doesn't go down. This is a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
We high-fiving right now.
You're giving us a Saquon.
Miller Lite, we going Saquon. We doing all that. But I just like, this is one of those games right here, man. None of us saw this coming.
No.
Not even this close. This is crazy.
And I don't feel like as terrible as I probably should. You know what I mean? Like, this is a loss where you just kind of go, all right.
I know if people like, he'll be like, oh, I don't like this loss. So that's a lot coming from him. So you felt the same way I feel.
Yeah, like I just went, like, as soon as Jalen left, anything was on the table. And then, to get 5 turnovers, not when the game is weird and all, and the defense didn't look like they have for, the past 10 weeks.
And let's be honest, they missed that false start.
Huge false start.
Yeah, there were a lot of calls.
Shady kind of day.
Either way.
From the Zebras.
Yeah, in both ways.
There were some bad. It was bad calls all around.
To pick up the flag on what could have been the roughing on Pickett, I thought was.
I actually thought that
was
he missed his head, like on the replay.
But he did hit him. We hit him with his elbow. But even that, like the guy's the one who calls it is right in front of him.
It's rare to see a flag picked up there.
That was crazy.
There's their AJ who's got his hand on the inside of the jersey on the PI, which was.
But this isn't a loss. Like I wake up Monday morning and go like, that really bothers me.
So what would be, Fran, the things from this game that do bother you moving forward?
I think they're going to have to look at the run game and see, all right, was it the same issues that plagued them back in Week 11? Was it just, hey, you know what, they had more bodies than us in the box and we just couldn't block it up? Was there a specific matchup that was giving them problems? Was it Deron Payne, whoever, insert player here, that gave them problems? That's something that they will probably try and glean from the tape. From the pass game standpoint, it's just going to be like you had a couple of those missed opportunities and you had your backup quarterback in. Defensively, I think there's plenty that they're going to be looking at and saying, okay, like we've got to get this corrected. We talked at halftime, the deep ball that Quinyon Mitchell gave up to Terry McLaurin. We have not seen that this year. What could he have done better from a technique standpoint? How could he have played to his help a little bit better on that final touchdown? In empty.
Yeah, what happened on that play?
Yeah, well, so Washington came out in empty, and from what I'm seeing, it seems like Tristan. So like the route comes from the left side, and McCollum is the right safety from the offensive point of view. It looks like his eyes probably should have been going back to the other side, but I kind of want to watch it back, from the all-22 to get a better sense of it. But it just feels like in this game, there's a lot of like individual like reps where it's like the scramble where you had 2 missed tackles, Nakobe Dean. You had all these individual plays just stack up. You had too many of them here in this game.
Yeah, that 4th and 11 scramble.
That was brutal.
It was a killer.
A really brutal one. And you said it on the watch along. You would like to see a spy there.
Yeah. 4th
and 11, they go empty. You got to be aware of the scrambling possibility.
And it's crazy because we get spoiled, man, with Zach Braun and Nakobe Dean's speed. It's just like their closing speed is second to none. So, we get a little spoiled. But like saying, like the missed tackles. It was like it was so many different key individual performance that could have made this game a little different.
So Vinny, I'm curious. CJGJ obviously gets the boot from the game for the unsportsmanlikes. How does Sirianni handle that? Because he said he likes that attitude that he brings to the defense, and he likes that little bit of crazy. He went a little too far with the crazy today.
Correct, but
how do you kind of manage that?
Flush this game. Flush it. Just flush this game. At the end of the day, he's gonna be fined anyway. What else you need to say to the man? You know, depending on how much the fine is, that's you know what I mean. So it's gonna be crazy. There's a good charity out there that's thanking CJ, but us Eagle fans, we're like, damn.
It did seem like the Commanders wanted to bring the chippiness, the physicality to the game today, whether they like either get under their skin or just part of the game plan. But they came with a chippiness to them today.
All right, we are still waiting to hear from Nick Sirianni, so let's take a little break and hear from our sponsors.
Zach Bond got his fifth forced fumble today, only behind TJ Watt, though, right?
Damn. I think
so tell you about our friends at HelloFresh, because if the holiday season is as busy for you as it is for most of us, you know, you got your plans for Christmas Eve and Christmas and Hanukkah potentially, but like, how are you going to fill in the rest of the week? You don't have to worry about that. Kids might be home from school. Like, you got so many balls in the air. Let HelloFresh hook you up and take the decision-making off of your plate. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip the trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it is America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh. Every HelloFresh recipe includes high-quality, sustainably sourced ingredients like produce that comes fresh from the farm. There's always something for everyone to enjoy on HelloFresh's weekly menu, with 50 chef-crafted recipes to choose from every week, plus customizable options to make your meals just the way you like them. You'll be able to easily satisfy every craving. If you're traveling for the holidays or just too busy to cook at home, you can easily skip a week's delivery if you need to. These really are easy commitments. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free Eagles, all one word, applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/free Eagles, all one word. It's America's #1 meal kit. Let them hook you up.
And let me tell you about the time as a father of a family of little ones and myself that recently got over an illness. It's illness season, so you should be stopping into your friendly neighborhood Rite Aid to get up to date on the pneumonia shot, amongst others, but whatever vaccine you might need. Help protect yourself from pneumonia. It's that time of the year. Adults age 50 and older are now eligible for the vaccine. In the past, it had been 65 plus, but the CDC has lowered the age recommendation to 50, and millions of people get pneumonia every single year, according to the CDC. It's a respiratory illness, and the winter is one of the worst times for it, where the germs that cause the respiratory disease spread more in the community. So now's the time to get vaccinated and help yourself stay healthy. Some people have mild symptoms, others have serious complications from pneumonia, and the vaccine is one of the best ways to help keep yourself healthy, and it's usually no cost to you with your insurance. And getting the vaccination is easy. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule online at riteaid.com. And if you're unsure of what vaccines you may need, just ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. Stop by your local Rite Aid today.
All right, we have Nick Sirianni live from Landover, Maryland. See what he has to say.
He's giving out his recipe for lasagna soup right now. We haven't missed anything yet.
Can he? Can the listeners hear him or no? No. Okay. Okay. All right. We're working on the sound. Yeah, some interesting things for him to discuss. Hey, Vinny? Some complaints in the chat about the hit on Jalen that gave him the concussion. What did you think of that hit?
I thought it was dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen.
I mean, you played in the league, yeah.
No. What I was getting ready to say is there's a hit that always stands out to me.
The backside
is we're driving to beat Seattle to go for another Super Bowl, and
Clowney.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. The league, that right there should have been the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Especially he's already down. The guy diving down with his hair like that is, you know?
Yeah.
And there was another one in the end zone there that was on that play. It was almost a little helmet to helmet.
Which is on AJ, which they could
On
have called,
AJ.
which they didn't call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he looking at the ref too. See, you know, like, yo, my man.
And he just literally led with his head.
Yeah. And then they call the roughing on Milton, which was like, that was as ticky-tack a call as I have ever, like, that was not rough.
And then Jalen got called
Carter
for the
got
other
one.
one after the play. That was technically a little late, but it was like
a little late, but it was also,
it was an extended arm push. It wasn't anything. The refs had a weird day.
It was a weird day.
Interpret that how you will.
Super chat from Matthew Greenwood says he's going to say it again. CJ Gardner-Johnson gets ejected, and we give up 22 points in one quarter. That ejection was the difference in the game. All right, we got Nick Sirianni.
I believe it was 1 point. You know, really good job by him on 2 4th-down conversions. Smitty made 2 big plays on that drive, or made a big play on the 4th-down conversion. AJ made the other one where he was able to slip it, but Kenny was under control and, you know, did some nice things today.
On kickoffs, was the plan to kick short?
No, you know, again, the weather right there, you can look at kind of what we've done in the past and where we've been on touchbacks and everything like that. You know, the ball wasn't traveling quite far today, and that's where we kicked them today.
What was the nature of the interaction with Zach Ertz after the game? It looked like he was pretty...
When Jalen Hurts left the game, it's obviously much more difficult to run the ball with Saquon. What were they doing differently, or were they just keying on him?
Yeah, hats off to Washington. They had a good plan, did some really good things, made it hard. You know, some muddy runs. You know, we were able to get some good yardage running the football, but it wasn't quite consistent enough for our standard. But they got good players, they got good coaches, and you know, they give them credit today.
To lose a starting quarterback is chaotic to say the least. Look, how do you manage like accountability on a Monday after this, and like how much of that do you credit to the team as you're trying to get through a game in a situation like this?
Yeah, we'll go back to work regardless of, you know, who played in what situation, and we'll, you know, everybody from myself to the coaches to the players will hold ourselves accountable. I think you heard Smitty talk to you guys, and you know, him taking accountability. That's what gives you, you know, great hope in this team, is that, you know, everyone wants to get better. Everyone wants to take accountability and get better from the things that they do. Accountability doesn't change, though, based off of your result, right? I'd be a hypocrite if I did that. So accountability for myself and for the team will be the same as if we were a win or a loss, or 10 wins in a row, 1 loss, 5 losses, or whatever it is. We're going to go back to work, and we're going to do the same things we do, and we're going to try to recreate our habits of what gets us in these scenarios in the first place.
The play where Pickett shuffled the ball forward, it looked like he got hit on that play. Did you have to have a conversation with him about whether he could continue, and do you think he's okay going forward?
Well, he went back in, so, you know, tough. Like I said, I haven't talked to the medical staff yet, but he went back in and made some really big plays in that next couple drafts.
We'll do 2 more, please.
What about adjusting on the fly when Kenny comes in? I mean, because he's obviously a much different quarterback than Jalen as far as being a +1 and everything. How, you know, what's that like as far as having?
Yeah, there's nothing we leave to something to do on the fly. I mean, there's at times you obviously have to adjust different things, but we go into a game with a plan. If that were to happen, we go into a game with a plan. If both guys were to go down and Tanner were to be in, that's just something you go through on your weekly process. So, you know, again, that's not something that's a on the fly thing. That's something that's been discussed all week.
With 4-minute offense,
Last one.
How do you look back at that 3 and out there in the fourth quarter?
The one before our drive when we were down.
After Reed's interception, when, you know, 55 seconds.
Oh, yeah. You know, again, we were. I think the first play we lost some yardage, then we completed one to AJ. So, and then we passed it to Smitty. So I thought we were aggressive. I thought Kellen did a good job of calling it there, being aggressive. You know, at the end of the day, they made one more play than we did on that. I didn't. You know, looking at that part, I'll have to go back and look at it and just our sequence there. I liked how we, you know, went about it to, you know. I think a lot of times you'll see teams maybe run there. You know, we were going to be aggressive in those scenarios. That's how we've been able to run a lot of the clocks out. We just didn't do it this time.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, every short and sweet.
Yeah, Zach got a question at the end. Well, I'm sure we'll hear more about that. Hey, you know what play I didn't like? If we're talking about it, we talked about it on the watch along. The 3rd and goal, or I guess it was the 3rd and 3 from the 4. The Saquon Wildcat pass attempt thing.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you why I didn't like it. Because they flex Kenny Pickett out, so it's a Wildcat snap to Saquon, and he's rolling out, and it's clear then that he's a potential thrower, and the fact that he is a Wildcat player puts the defense on alert that he could be potentially throwing a pass. Whereas if you want to run that same play, but it's a handoff from Kenny Pickett, I feel like it would catch the defense more off guard, and that leads to a short field goal. And obviously, difference between 3 and 7 is huge. I didn't like the design of that play.
Yeah, it looked like it wanted to be one of those old school Tim Tebow jump passes.
You're hoping that DeVonta just breaks free to the corner after faking a block.
But there's got to be a couple, at least 2 options, right?
But there wasn't.
I know.
And also, like, they haven't run a single Saquon Wildcat snap all year long, and so, like, of course they're going to be on alert about that. I don't know.
Gadget plays, you typically only have one option, especially if you have a non-QB thrower. Like Saquon Barkley's not going to go back there like going through progressions or anything. Like, the point I made to the watch along was like Philly Special had one option. It's
maybe something like Siamese, like where it's the same, but it's as a short.
It was it was either not sneaky enough or too sneaky. It was like, like I don't know, just one thing that's on my mind. Yeah, the defense. Obviously, this was not their best game. Aside from the turnovers, now you force 5 turnovers, that should be enough. Like you should get it done.
It's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah.
But like, is there any concern that this is like the attrition of all the snaps that those defensive linemen are playing, or those guys getting banged up? What did you see from the D line?
I thought throughout the game, I thought the first 3 quarters they did good. You know what I mean? I thought it was a very well. I'm just talking about that last quarter.
Yeah.
Even there was 5. Like I said, the 5 takeaways is enough to win the football game. But this was one of those, like you said, weird games where that didn't get it done, but then we also gave up 22 points in the 4th quarter, so it was kind of like,
Now, somebody that we should circle back to that super chat that put a lot of that on the absence of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, to be fair, C.J. Gardner-Johnson probably at fault for that first touchdown pass from the Commanders, which was a little bit similar, but obviously he brings a lot to that defense. And when you go to Tristan McCollum, it did look a little bit different.
Yeah, I going through the dots from Next Gen.
Love the dots.
Yeah, so just taking a look at the dots. It honestly, it looks like that was probably just a really good route concept against the coverage. Where they basically did a kind of in and out type of route combination against both Reed Blankenship and Zach Bond. And basically it was like a high-low read for Jaden Daniels. So it was a well orchestrated play. We'll see what the film actually looks like, but just based off the dots, that almost looks like a tip of the cap play for the offense.
Jamie, what's the mood of the chat?
The mood of the chat is there was a lot of infighting earlier. A couple comments about all you Hurts haters. Is this what y'all wanted?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
No, nobody ever wanted Kenny Pickett.
No, not one person. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say not one person, but no one was saying Jalen Hurts should be benched for putting Kenny Pickett. No one was saying
I saw one comment said CJGJ is losing his fastball. He's supposed to get the opponent kicked out, not himself kicked out. Just overall.
Yeah, that one. I mean, the first one was crazy. That he says something, gets smoked in the face, and his helmet comes off, and the ref gives.
And the head referee right away.
But he must have said something.
You asked for it.
Yeah.
He must have said something pretty vile.
What is that like, Vinny? How nasty do those conversations get?
Oh, it get real nasty.
Who's the meanest player you ever played against?
Oh,
I don't know because I think
Brandon Graham.
No. I think outside of the ball on defense, you say some real, very, very disrespectful stuff. And I don't know that I want to say there's no. The meanest only person that always Phillip Rivers talk a lot of
really
talk a lot, yeah. Phillip Rivers talk a lot.
Interesting.
He talk a lot, and believe it or not, Tom Brady talk a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw some clips of Josh Allen talking a pretty good game the other day.
He talks a lot too. The Josh Allen talk a lot too, but I remember us playing Josh Allen the last time we got to play them was in Buffalo was like kind of flurry.
Okay.
And we washed him up, so he was kind of quiet.
Okay. Now, are they like Rivers and Brady? Are they like telling you that you suck? Is it personal? What kind of?
No. Brady just fiery and talking,
Okay.
but Phillip Rivers he talk. Boy, you be like, damn, like, oh, all right, you know what I mean? And then you wait, like it be on his be borderline, like, yo, I dare you to step out that line. What you want to say, you know what I mean? It's like one of those. I was like, damn, man, dude, good trash talking. Yeah.
And then you get like the Andrew Lucks of the world that like get hit.
Good job,
like,
man.
Oh, nice hit, 7-5, hell of a tackle. You know, the guys that like love football so much that they respect the defensive players.
Fran, for you, Chris McPherson.
Oh, he's up there. Yeah, right.
Talking smack.
And then when you start thinking about that shit, I'm just going through that the CJ play in my head. That might be the first time a football player got thrown out for words.
It's a rare thing.
Words, bro. Though? Like you got this ain't the NBA where you can throw a tech on somebody or something like that. That's if you watch the sequence of this game, like it's like, yo, we didn't. The refs really helped them. I'm not going to say that listen, we still give up 5 freaking touchdowns and 3 in the fourth quarter, but at the same time, we start looking at the sequence of it like they pick up the personal foul, got tossed from just talking. The false start wasn't called.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many sequences of things. So many. It's like a list of things.
The hit on Jordan Davis too was kind of like a little questionable.
The Kenny Pickett, I don't care what y'all say. Once you throw that ball, you this ain't court. You can't. You know, it's no defense attorney. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what do you have to say to get kicked out for words?
I wasn't mad a couple minutes ago. Now I'm starting to get mad.
People want to see that.
Damn, man.
I mean, sticks and stones, right? Like you should. What is there, like 6 keywords? Is this George Carlin in the FCC?
Is this Pop Warner?
Yeah, like, what's he saying out there? He's getting punched in the face and he's getting that's some vile stuff he must be saying.
It's part of his allure is that he gets people riled up.
Now I really want to know what he said.
Yeah.
Got
somebody somewhere has it mic'd up and they know, but they're not going to release that tape.
No, that tape's not going out.
Yeah.
Got some Saquon next gen numbers.
Okay.
All right. After starting the game with 109 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on his first 7 carries, Barkley finished by gaining just 41 yards on the final 22. Barkley gained 99 of those 109 rushing yards before contact on those first 7 carries. So 99 yards before contact in the first quarter, was not hit behind the line of scrimmage one time. After the first quarter, Barkley had -4 rushing yards before contact, was hit behind the line of scrimmage 13 times.
Wow.
Just about 60% of his carries. Commanders started the game by utilizing single high safety shells on just 3 of 12 plays, but adjusted after Jalen Hurts exited the game, aligning in a single high shell on 40 of the final 59 plays, 67%. So they basically rolled that extra safety down, loaded up the box. Barkley gained just 28 yards and had just 2 successful runs on his 18 carries against single high safety shells compared to 117 yards and 5 successful runs on the 9 carries against 2 high safety looks. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts got hurt. They loaded up the box, completely loaded up, sell the run, and the Eagles had no answers. He was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage on nearly every carry, 2/3 of his carries, couldn't get anything going on the ground. So the numbers matched up with the eye test there.
So it sounds like that. The Commanders say, hey, we're going to load the box out. Kenny Pickett just drop back and we'll see who beat us.
Yep.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Here's what Zach is going to talk to us about.
Okay.
Well, one of the things. Eagles on 3rd down in this game.
Terrible. 3 of 13.
3 of 16.
3 of 16.
Oh, that's
and there were a lot of those plays where it's like 3rd and medium long. It's like 7, 8,
because of the lack of run game success.
And they're just they're just not trusting Kenny Pickett to throw that ball. Like there are 3 or 4 of them. They're just give up cowards draws. Like you got to trust your quarterback.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And also, that's the thing too, is like it's not just like trust Kenny Pickett. If you're the coach, like what you're saying, it's trust AJ Brown, trust DeVonta Smith, like trust those guys to make a play for you.
You know what would really give me the chills right now, going back and looking at the value they gave up for Kenny Pickett and Jahan Dotson. Oof.
Yeah, it's a 3rd round pick and a 4th round pick.
Oof. That hurts.
What did you think, Fran, of the way that they handled the end of the first half? So it's like 3rd and medium.
Right.
No, it's 3rd and 1. and they with like 50 seconds left, and they hand it off to Saquon Barkley, who gets crushed in the backfield.
Yep.
Loss of 2. Commanders don't call a timeout. Eagles don't call a timeout. They let it run down to like 11 seconds left.
Yeah, you called this. Yep.
And then call timeout after trying to, they get the nick play to try to draw them off sides. Doesn't happen. And so they go for it on 4th down, 11 seconds left, and they convert, but only enough to make it a 56-yard field goal for Jake Elliott, who misses short.
Yeah. Honestly, like my biggest takeaway from that sequence was they played for that sequence. Like they called a play to only pick up 4 yards. Like that was not to, all right, let's see if we can get a chunk and make this 30-yarder. To me, that was, Nick actually does have faith in Jake Elliott. Like that's what that spoke of. It was like he had more faith in Jake Elliott hitting a 56-yarder than he did in the past game, getting a chunk play to get them in closer range. That was my takeaway.
I didn't mind not taking the timeout because it's possible, like with too much time left, if you go for it and don't get it, you're
giving them
probably
time,
giving up a field goal. I thought that was okay, but I thought if you do that, you got to go for like 10 yards, make it a 50-yard field goal. It's just they didn't go for enough there.
Yeah, that's one where
I said it live.
Yeah, and that's one where watching. I'll wait to see how the film. It looked like that was within rhythm. Like that's what they wanted. They ran a clear out route on the outside, and they ran DeVonta Smith into the void with a quick out route, and Kenny hit him in rhythm. So to me, it looked like that's what the design was. And so like they look at that like, all right, like good job. And so that's what they were playing for.
10 air yards for Kenny Pickett would take like what, 7.8 seconds, almost 8 seconds. So maybe the game clock was against them there, Bo.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
Real time. That's taking a long time to get there.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wish we would have seen Kenny run a little bit more. That one scramble we had was sick. I thought that
somebody in the chat said he's getting X-rays on his ribs.
Smith to his left.
Kenny's getting X-rays on his ribs. Remember on that one he came up, he was trying to like
he was flexing the wrist one.
What could have been
it was the perfect time to put Tanner McKee in.
I want to see Tanner McKee. I do. I believe that the offense would function better, but that is
Can we go through
just
the
based on having watched it all summer long.
He was hurt. He's getting X-rays. You had an opportunity, Fran.
Well, yeah. If you pull Pickett,
Pickett and put in McKee, then that means that Pickett can't go back into the game,
right? At all.
Matter what.
What's the problem?
If McKee twists an ankle, then you're running the Saquon trick pass
Jahan
play
Dotson, do something. Somebody.
Yeah.
I'll take those chances.
I mean, that would be like if they could then win the game with just Saquon as the
Wildcat
quarterback, running back, then he probably does get MVP.
See, it's like a win-win.
There you go.
Except
we get a
unless they lose.
You win until you lose.
So I'm guessing that he's getting X-rays that he's not coming to the podium.
Probably
not. Yeah, it's a good point.
Good point. All right, let's run through the other super chats as we wait to hear from Zach Berman. Let's see what we got here. Claude Debussy, worst offensive line game in recent memory, Fran.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good one. There was the one sack where we said, man, like you can't have that sack. They just got into field goal range, and it was a -6. I didn't look at that like, yeah, he stepped up and like ran into it, but there was legitimate pressure there. That was not the pristine pockets.
Versus anybody in particular.
If I remember right, one who gave up that pressure on that one, where he had somebody coming up in his face, and then when Pickett stepped up, the end came off of Lane Johnson and was able to.
And then when you talk about the things that the Washington defensive line was doing up front to halt the running game, who do we have? Oh, we got Zach. All right, we'll talk about it. We'll bring Zach in a sec. That stuff on the defensive line, is that an offensive line adjustment that needs to be made?
Yeah. So in the first game, it was a lot of like slanting against their zone run schemes. And, Vinny, like when you're running inside zone and outside zone over and over again, it's very assignment oriented and timing and rhythm based for the offensive line. And so when you're slanting and twisting up front, that can throw off, who's got who,
right.
at the snap of the ball. And that was the issue in that Thursday night game. I kind of want to go back and watch and see if that's what the issue was. It didn't feel like that's what it was.
So that second half, I felt like they did a lot of run stunts.
Yeah,
that's why they get the backfield so quick. And it's just like if you're the offensive line, you're sitting there like they're coming, but you can't cheat. You can't even move down.
Okay.
Until the player started. But if that kid of the player is just quicker than you at the time, it's just like, damn, man.
So then why don't defensive lines do that all the time?
Because
you have a quarterback who can throw the ball.
You do that to him out there, I'm out of. Now you see me, now you don't, type of thing. That's why you got to play him honest. You know, without him back there, if they game plan in that second half, like Fran was saying, is that, hey, we're going to do everything in our power to stop Saquon Barkley. Kenny, you're going to have to step back and throw the ball on us to beat us.
And when you load the box, if you bring that safety down, in theory, Jalen Hurts levels the box count back in the offense's favor because he's a viable runner. So if you're not using the quarterback as that runner, you are truly down one in the box. Right. Because when teams go to do that, that's when you get the QB draws and you get the QB counters and you get all those things to basically say, okay, this gives us a number back in our favor. You remove that, and that is what you get.
So then that means that if they're going to do that, the numbers are in your favor in the passing game, and you got to trust your quarterback.
That's why you have to make those throws.
Like, think about it. If Jalen's there's no jump pass. It's the push tush.
Yeah.
Two plays in a row.
Yeah, I think in the low red zone, that made a big difference in this game.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Eagles defense got killed by Jaden Daniels' legs. You know, Hurts' mobility was a lost asset for the Eagles in a huge way.
He had a 22-yarder, and he had a 13-yarder where he got hurt on.
Those were plays of the game for them.
Yeah.
All right, let's head to Landover, Maryland. Zach Berman, who must be peacocking over the Jamison Crowder emergence. How you doing? An eventful game, Zach. Give us your perspective on it.
Walked into that locker room. It was quiet as could be. You could hear a pin drop. This was a team that felt a loss, right? They haven't lost in a long time, obviously. And yeah, this was a game that got away from them. There was there was a lot of places to lament here. Frankly, it was all sides of the ball. And you can look at defense. They forced 5 turnovers, but they can't get off the field late. There were some communication errors, obviously. You saw that in particular on the Zacchaeus touchdown. Spoke to Darius Slay about that. The offense couldn't close late in the game. You know, they had that 3 and out after Reed Blankenship's interception. They settled for field goals a few times. And then special teams, the short kicks, really hurt them, giving Washington short field. So all 3 phases had a role in this loss. That said, you look at the points they scored, you look at 5 takeaways, you should win this game. And I know that there's Eagles fans who are probably saying that they've lost 3 games this year. One of those losses, Saquon Barkley drops a pass that would help seal the game. DeVonta Smith drops a pass that helps seal the game. And DeVonta was by his locker, ready, took all the, said that's on, say he dropped the ball. There's no excuses, nothing more to be said than that. He dropped the ball. And look, he needs to make that catch. And DeVonta would tell you that. But they're across the board here. The Eagles had multiple opportunities to win this game and multiple opportunities not to lose this game. And I think those 2 things are, you can win it and then you cannot lose it. And they failed them in both those areas. There was a lot, there was responsibility taken after the game. Players, Jordan Mailata said he doesn't give a bleep about the number 1 seed. Like that's not what he's focused on. It's that there was a game that left him frustrated. That 3 and out that I mentioned after the Reed Blankenship interception, Jordan Mailata was lamenting the first down play. There was some miscommunication, and it's part of Kenny Pickett being in there. There's a cadence that they're working on, and you did hear that. And then obviously I've gone this opening soliloquy or monologue here, and I didn't even mention the elephant in the room, which is Jalen Hurts gets that concussion, affects him significantly. Saw Jalen in the locker room was wearing sunglasses. Now Jalen often wears sunglasses, so I don't know if it was a style thing or concussion thing. He was walking around, didn't seem like problematic, but I can tell you, I don't know how much the TV footage showed. Being here in the stadium, it was stunning to me that he tested positive for a concussion or that he had the concussion, because he didn't want to come off the field. They had to get him to come off the field. He went back to the huddle. And then even when he went into the concussion, when he went into the blue tent, he goes back to the sideline, puts his helmet on, and he's getting ready to go back in the game. And, the training staff had to call him back. And then when he went to the locker room, he didn't strut there. Usually Jalen struts. He jogged. He was the first one there. I'm not a doctor, but you would see these things and you would say, this guy doesn't look concussed, but clearly didn't pass the concussion test, and Kenny Pickett did solid, but they missed him. I heard before you guys came on, there were plays in that game that Jalen makes and throws that he makes, and I do think they missed Jalen tonight.
Jimmy, he went to the same medical school you did.
Yeah, Zach, I said, no way he's leaving the game. That didn't look that bad.
Been frozen.
That's interesting color, though.
Sure.
That's very interesting.
Sure. Yeah, because I was ready to put out, because it was actually similar to that last Washington game, by the way. Actually, interestingly, that last Washington game, the Thursday night game, I thought Jalen looked more dinged up then than he did today. And he passed that concussion test. So, look, I mean.
There's a conspiracy theory in the chat, Zach, that this is the league getting back at Jalen Hurts for wearing two-colored shoes again.
Yeah. No, I don't believe it's that. I think.
Now the league is cutting you
Jalen
off.
will be happy that
question.
For all the.
Rodgers behind it all.
No, I think all the. I think all the brand Jordans. Can you hear me? I think all the brand Jordan stuff they would like, with all the with the cleats. No, in Jalen's case, it was. I think it's good that the league does this. It's good that there's the checks and balances in place for a player can't say, no, he's not concussed. You go to the sideline. Concussions are a serious thing. I was just surprised, given the sequence of events, that it was ruled that he did have a concussion.
So the Kenny Pickett of this, Zach, what was the reaction to him, his performance, and the way that they called the game on offense? What was the reaction in the locker room?
Yeah, players were commending Kenny for the job that he did. AJ was pretty honest. AJ was like, they were just rolling the dice out there. They don't get a lot of work with Kenny in practice. Like it's not like he said he's been practicing with Jalen for 3 years. He barely plays with Kenny Pickett, right? And so what happens on the fly, they're kind of rolling the dice. Saquon was saying how you really, and AJ said this too, that you really saw Washington sell out against the run when Pickett went in there. And it was like, don't let Saquon beat you. And there were plays to be made. Now, Saquon was lamenting the drop pass he had, which I actually thought Kenny need to put that in a better spot. My view, I haven't watched the tape back, but Saquon said he tried to double catch it there, and he can't have that drop. He said Bobby Wagner was in good coverage, but he says he needs to make that play. I mean, the AJ said Marshawn Lattimore, who he has a lot of respect for, said Marshawn Lattimore would have fouled out in a basketball game, right? Because, but no, AJ was trying to make play. AJ was making plays out there. It was the DeVonta catch that sticks with them, or the DeVonta drop, I should say, the Saquon drop, and then there were miscommunications, if you will, with Kenny, just cadence things that they're working out. And then there were some calls late in the game. And by the way, I talked about all this, and I didn't even mention C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So there's so many storylines in this game here. But the Kenny Pickett of it all, Kenny. I mean, Kenny did fine. I don't think Kenny made enough winning plays there. But I don't think he was egregious. I think he kind of settled in the second half. The interception was bad, right? He got he was fortunate that the fumble was ruled incompletion. It was unfortunate that the flag was picked up when he scrambled. That would have been a key first down I thought that hit was late enough after the slide that I was surprised they picked up the flag. But I'm curious when I drive home tonight to listen to the postgame show to see what you guys said about Kenny's performance, because I thought he was fine. I know there's a lot of – I was getting texts during the game. You think McKee would have been better? I thought McKee was better this summer, but I thought there were things that Pickett managed well. He was able to move decently.
Zach,
but they were missing the +1 element in the running game.
Stunk.
Yeah. Okay. He thought he stunk. Okay. I mean, look, I'll defer to you guys, and I'll watch the game back. I did't think he was like horrible.
I'm the harshest of the two.
I didn't think he was horrible. Look, it was what? It was 14. It was 14-0
Put up 12 points in 3 quarters, and he was spotted 5 turnovers.
Yeah, no, that's fair. He put up more than 12 points, didn't he?
No, it's for 4 field goals. I am with you, Zach. I thought
he threw a touch. He threw a touchdown. He threw a touchdown.
KJ.
To AJ.
Okay.
The offense put up 12 points. He threw a touchdown on the opening drive in the first quarter, yes, in his first drive.
Yeah.
Zach, have you ever covered a game where a defense had 5 turnovers and they lost?
I can't remember one. I mean, I'll look it up. Usually 5 turnovers, you're pretty money. Now you look at turnover differential, and yeah, I mean they settled for too many field goals overall tonight, which is on Kenny. But the defense had multiple chances to get off the field late, and those 2 late touchdowns, the Zacchaeus one and the Crowder one, those were inexcusable on the defensive end. They gave up the big 4th down scramble to Jaden Daniels at one point too. So the blame goes all around. I'll say regarding the defense, Darius Slay said on the Zacchaeus touchdown that he should have notified. He notified one position coach that he was ready to go back in the game. He didn't notify the other one. There was a miscommunication with Ringo and him, and that was they had the 12 man on the field, but they had one guy left uncovered because of that miscommunication. And that was the problem there. It was Slay substituting back onto the field and the miscommunication with it.
Do you have any understanding of what happened with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, why he was kicked out of the game?
There's I see through this glass right now, they're handing out a poll report. The Washington media got the poll report on it. I will get a better explanation then. I believe, I tried asking people in the locker room. Slay said he didn't even know what happened. He thought Gardner-Johnson got hurt or something to be going off. My guess, and I think Dean Blandino said this on the telecast, was that it was something that CJ might have said. I didn't see CJ punch anyone or anything like that. So my guess, knowing CJ, is that he probably said something within earshot that caused the unsportsmanlike penalty. I don't know. I know the telecast didn't catch this, although you probably saw it on social media. CJ was steamed coming off the field, walks off, gives the double bird to the crowd.
We didn't see this.
No, we didn't see that.
Nice. Yeah. 2 fingers. Yeah, 2 middle fingers up. At that Washington crowd. at that Washington crowd. So it was what's that? The Philadelphia hello or the Philadelphia goodbye, whatever it is. Yeah,
it's just good manners.
Yeah.
Were there other things for the pool report beyond C.J. Gardner-Johnson? I'm curious why they picked up the flag on the Pickett one. That was.
Oh, I don't believe that one came up. I will see on the poll report in a minute. No, I think it was the C.J. Gardner-Johnson ejection. And by the way, they missed CJ, man. I mean, I like Tristan McCollum, but I thought he struggled in there. And I thought it wasn't a coincidence to me that those 2 touchdowns came late when CJ wasn't on the field. And CJ has to do a better job than that, and you've seen this. This is something that Nick's going to have to address. And I know I wrote in my story this week about Jalen Carter that the coaches like seeing the fire and that passion, and you'd rather that than someone who's not passionate. The flip side is you can't be giving teams free yards, and you can't be getting ejected from games. So whether it's agreeable or disagreeable to call, the bottom line is they give you 2 personal, they give you 2 unsportsmanlike penalties. If you get 2 of them, it hurts your team when you're not in there. And that's I'm all for intensity and emotion, but there's a degree of professionalism required here. You got to be on the field, right? You can't get ejected from a game like that. And they missed him. And I think that needs to come up in the meetings this week from Sirianni, because look, Jalen Carter came close last week. Jalen Carter had a penalty that the Eagles were fortunate didn't cost them last week. And then CJ gets thrown out of the game tonight. It cost them. I understand you have emotional players, but this needs to be addressed because you don't want that happening in the playoffs.
Zach, I'm curious, in the locker room, one of the interesting, or maybe the most interesting takeaway from this game is that everything now sets up pretty clearly that these 2 teams are going to play again in 3 weeks in Philadelphia. How aware were the players in the locker room of that possibility?
That's a great point, Bo. I wasn't aware of that until you just said that. I heard it was interesting. Bob Brookover from NJ.com was asking Cam Jurgens, like, do you want to see these guys again? Because it seems like they were pretty intense about playing you. And I was curious, like, is this because of the rivalry? That explains it. That didn't, Cam Jurgens was like, I'm just thinking about the Cowboys, man. And then the same thing, Jalen Carter, when he was talking about the play, there were more questions about the 1 seed, not having the 1 seed. And it's like, yeah, we're just focused on the Cowboys. It's next week. We're not thinking about the playoffs yet. That did not come up, but that is an interesting development. That is not one that I thought about. So it's setting up for that to be the case, the 2-7 game.
For the 2 seed, all the Eagles need to do is either win one more game or have the Commanders lose one more game, and they'll be the 2 seed, presuming that they can't catch Detroit or Minnesota for the 1, which is extremely unlikely at this point. And then for the 7, right now, Washington is a half game behind Green Bay, so it's possible that they could catch Green Bay for the 6, but it's, I think, most likely that it's going to be Washington going to Philadelphia in 3 weeks.
Wow, that's fascinating. I would much rather Washington than Green Bay, to be honest with you.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Eagles can beat this team. I give Washington credit. Jaden Daniels, man, he made some money plays. I think the Eagles can beat this team.
Hey, Zach, we were talking about before you came on, was this the last regular season game we seen Jalen play in right before the playoffs? Because being concussed, does he miss next week's game and then the following game?
Great question, Vinny. I don't think so. I think he's back. Now, I understand people say it's hard to get back in 1 week with a concussion. Sidney Brown was back this week. Zach Ertz was back this week. Your old trainer, Rick Burkholder, once said to me, Vinny, said to the media, when you see one concussion, you've seen one concussion, meaning like they're all different. And so I don't want to diagnose Jalen with a mild concussion. But I don't anticipate, look, I don't know this. I don't think it'll be like a 3-week concussion. And I think that if he misses next week, my guess is they would try to get him at least some work in week 18, just to get him on the field, get him in rhythm. That would be my guess, because I understand they were playing for something back in 2022. But if you look at 2022 as a precedent, I think I know the Eagles saw value in Jalen getting that final game that season, and just like seeing that he could play with that injury. Now, the shoulder injury that year is a lot different than a concussion. I get that, right? But I don't think that they would go 2+ weeks cold without Jalen. But it's a good question, and it's one I didn't think about that until you brought it up.
Hey, Zach, how impressive was Jaden Daniels today from your vantage point?
Yeah, so so impressive in both the physical ability, but like the managing the game too. And I say that because I don't mean to echo Nick Sirianni here. I think one of the underrated things about Jalen Hurts is, like managing the 4-minute situation, the 4-minute situation late in games. And there's a lot that goes into it. I thought Jaden Daniels did a good job managing those 2 drives late in the game. Knowing kind of the sequence, knowing how to work it. I thought him extending plays was obviously big. You saw that multiple times, but also the really good quarterbacks, like they'll force you to eat your mistakes. And that's what Jaden Daniels did today. Like it's one thing for the Eagles to have that miscommunication and leaves the case open. But there are times you look around the NFL most weeks, there are times when there's miscommunication and the quarterback doesn't see it or the quarterback doesn't make you pay. And they absolutely made the Eagles pay. And I think, they knew Jaden Daniels knew to pick on the middle of the field after CJ went down. I was impressed with Jaden Daniels. And this is something that, for the next decade or the decade's a long time, at least the next 4 or 5 years, the Eagles got to deal with this.
All right, Zach, for everybody watching, if you're watching for the first time, make sure you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. We want to get that thing close to 30K. What can diehards, Zach, look forward to reading on allphly.com from you tonight and tomorrow morning?
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to write is obviously the quarterback reaction, quarterback situation. What happened with Jalen, Kenny stepping in. And then I think because there's so many storylines here, I'm going to follow up tomorrow with just some notes from the locker room, DeVonta, or different perspectives from the locker room on some of the fallout from this game. I have a cool story this week that I'm running on Saquon Barkley. I hope people check that out. It's Saquon is he's a student of look, he's like a student of the game in the sense that he really is into the history of running backs, and he'll know all these like talking points that you hear on the PHLY Eagles show or on SportsCenter when they play Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's record against or Lamar Jackson's record against the NFC, or Mike Tomlin's career streak, or different. I remember talking about Shady back when Shady was going into the franchise Hall of Fame, and Saquon knew down to the yardage how many yards LaShawn had in 2013. And so I kind of get into why he's the student of the game, what he thinks of Eric Dickerson, but then also I caught up with Saquon as he was walking out last week, and I wanted him to give me his 5 best running backs all time and explain why each one is, so he mentioned, he gives me the player and then a description on each player. So like you can see what he distinguishes between Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and Marshall Faulk and Adrian Peterson, and like coming from Saquon, I thought it was cool insight. So I'm going to turn that around for Thursday, December 26th. So make sure you check that out on allphly.com.
Become a diehard or gift a diehard subscription to the loved one in your life. Just so you know, Zach, Saquon now up to 1,838 rushing yards on the season, thanks to his 150 rushing yards in this game. That puts him on pace for 2,083 rushing yards, which would be just shy of Eric Dickerson's 2,105. But if they play both games, it is possible. It is within reach.
Yeah, so that's kind of why the loss is like tough from a narrative perspective too, because you wanted these next 2 games to really mean something. And from a storyline perspective, I wanted that Week 17 game against the Giants, Saquon against the Giants. I wanted that really to mean something.
He needs to average 135 yards over the final 2 games to tie Eric Dickerson. Not crazy.
If he has a first quarter like he did tonight, that will happen.
But if they're locked into the 2 seed in week 18, probably not going to happen. Right?
We need to get them Saquon shirts that say Saquon, Mr. 2K.
There you go. There you go. We need and we need 30K, man. We need
K as the S for Saquon. You can make it. I don't know. You can make it work. Go ahead.
Yeah, we need 30K. We need 4 more subscribers here. Let's keep working on that, on YouTube subscribers. But yeah, so my just big picture here, I would just say this locker room was noticeably quiet when you walked in. Players, there wasn't blame going around. The players were taking responsibility for this, but it was this was a loss that they felt. I always say, like I tell my son, you got to feel it. This team felt this loss, and it wasn't one that they just like flushed right away. Like I get they want to move on, but they recognized there were parts of this game that they didn't do well enough to win.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Zach. We look forward to reading what you're going to write on allphly.com, and we will talk to you on tomorrow's show at 2:00.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
All right, Zach.
All right. And before we get to the rest of your super chats, and there are some good ones in here, we got to take one more break to hear from our sponsor. And we start with our friends at Miller Lite. Miller Lite was taking us through the watch along today. That was a lot of fun. And we all know that a lot has changed over the years. And one thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't changed is that it remains less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? Well, Miller Lite sparked this debate in 1975, and we still haven't settled it. Great taste, less filling. Great taste, less filling. Why not both? If listening, some of you might want to drink away your sorrows after a loss like this. Miller Lite's a good way to do it, and this way you can just keep drinking and it won't get you, quite as loaded. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer. Less filling and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time to get Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Visit MillerLite.com/PHLYBirds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
And let me tell you about Glatt Hair Restoration, because he's teamed up with Dr. Morgenstern, a highly respected plastic surgeon, but they have the same approach to care, the same expert team, the same unmatched Glatt system with the same state-of-the-art location and the same stellar results. Bald is now optional, and anybody can help, buy equipment and say they do hair restoration, but only Glatt Hair offers decades of proven results using an innovative approach and delivered by the industry leaders. Glatt Hair can help during all stages of hair loss with leading-edge treatments for prevention and restoration, including laser light therapy, non-invasive TED treatments, vitamin supplementation, topical and oral medications, PRP and stem cell restoration, and hair restoration surgery. Each patient gets a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment. And Glatt Hair just isn't about restoration, it's about innovation. Their breakthrough treatments really do dramatically change lives. Look at the beautiful head of hair on John Marks, and that's all the proof you need. Change your hair, change your life. Bald is now optional. If you want to improve how you feel about yourself, Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit glatthairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started.
One small nod for the positive for the Eagles defense, run defense in this game. I mean, the three Commanders running backs combined for 15 carries for 32 yards.
Wow.
They did shut down the run in this game. I don't know. That's something, right?
Been par for the course. Yeah, I mean, and Brian Robinson put the ball on the ground 2 or 3 times. So they've been so good against the run. The big difference was in this one, you had the missed tackles against Jaden Daniels in the open field, whether they were scrambles or design runs, and then you had a couple of those explosives. That has not been par for the course and against what we've seen from this group.
Yeah, not excuse making, but maybe the secondary was just kind of exhausted by the end of the game.
No, the offense dominated the ball, dominated time possession in the third quarter. By the time you got there, they should have been well rested.
Most teams haven't attacked the Eagles through the air as much as I feel like they got attacked today. But yeah,
give me the defensive snap counts real quick, just to run through them. 64 plays it looks like, according to True Media right away. Zach Bond, Reed Blankenship, Quinyon Mitchell play all 64. Jalen Carter 61 of 64. Darius Slay 60. Cooper DeJean 59. Nakobe Dean 55. 54 for Nolan Smith. 40 for Milton Williams. 34 for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. 33 for Jalix Hunt, just over 50% of the snaps.
Josh Sweat injury.
31 for Sweat. 30 for McCollum. 20 for Ajama. Only 15 for Jordan Davis, though he was banged up. 7 for Chuck Harris. I don't remember seeing him do anything.
My guess is, during the Sweat injury, they had to get a third guy in there,
And then 6 for Isaiah Rodgers, 6 for Oren Burks, and 1 for Keely Ringo. Nothing too crazy.
By the way, Dave Zangaro put this out from Reed Blankenship. I'm going to have on the CJ ejection. He said, I'm going to have his back. He didn't say anything at all. I was right there. But when you're in the hot spot, things happen. At the end of the day, I got my dude's back. Next man up. The chances he said nothing are non-existent. Come on, Reed.
Something. That's okay. He's got his guy's back.
Yeah, but you don't have to lie. He clearly said something.
I did like on the watch along. I did like the turnover they forced where they got their running back locked up, and then Reed Blankenship comes in with the forced fumble, and then Cooper DeJean gets the recovery, like just the gentrification fumble. Like they come in and clean it up at the end. Like, come on. Give the guys the credit who actually did it. All right, the super chats to run through. Claude, we talked about Claude Dubassez, the worst offensive line game in memory. We have Chuck, who says, how bad did the CJ-GJ ejection hurt? A few questions on that front. I think we sort of talked about that. It's hard to say without looking at the All-22. I'm sure you'll be curious about that tomorrow. But I also don't think it's as easy as, like, Tristan McCollum is the reason that they gave up 22 points in the fourth quarter.
No. I think it is notable, though, that on the games when they've been missing those safeties, like 2 games ago against Carolina, that you didn't have Blankenship and the pass defense didn't look great.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, there could be something to the fact, and it's not like anti-Tristan McCollum, but he's a young and experienced player. And this is a scheme that we know is predicated on sound safety play. And so if you don't have those starters back there, the lack of communication, there could be something there.
And I also think it's fair, the questions in the chat about, Sidney Brown has dealt with injuries. He's been banged up throughout this season, but it's disappointing that a second-year third-round pick can't get on the field over Tristan McCollum.
I agree.
Justin says, this loss is absolutely on ZB. Thanks for creating Jamison Crowder. We will make sure that Zach answers for that on tomorrow's show. Musa says, should they have gone for it after the DeVonta Smith drop? And this is an interesting question.
Yeah, right.
That is an interesting question.
Because it's tough. Because obviously if you don't get it, then the Commanders only need a field goal to win the game. If you do get it, the problem with going for it is the game is not really over. If it was, then I could be convinced to go for it.
Yeah, and it paid off for them in some instances. They went for a 4th down after an incompletion to A.J. Brown at one point, and then they went back to A.J., and he came through for the first down.
I still think they went down 28-27.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to take the field goal there. I was okay with them kicking.
My gut was that I was okay with it too.
Yeah.
What about you, Vinny?
Oh yeah, no, I'm kicking it. Listen.
Put the onus on the defense.
Yeah, but you think about the way the defense been playing.
Yeah, right.
Kicking that field goal, that don't happen all the time. But it's just what I was getting ready to say. But then I see on the next super chat, I'll talk about it on that one.
The Eagles' 2-minute defense has been bad all year.
Right, but so my thing is this: when you know that Washington is a no huddle team, you would have. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they probably was conditioning for this moment. I would like to assume it was, but it's just like, dang.
And listen, I mean, our narratives change, obviously, and if DeVonta Smith catches that ball, we're coming here on the postgame show talking about how the defense was put up to the test, one stop, go make the play, and they all did it, and it was a great team play. They forced that interception. Slay comes in, and Blankenship closes it. And then Kenny Pickett, even though he's the backup quarterback and hadn't played the best game, delivers the first down game-winning pass to DeVonta Smith, and the Eagles team finds a way. Like, it is true that they were, this close to pulling that off.
Sure. I may be a little too harsh on Pickett, but I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you play, devil's advocate, 5 turnovers, and if Jalen was playing this game, probably score 50 points.
Oh, Vinny, you should have seen me during the watch along in the first quarter. I was going, it's over. This game's over. Put him in a body bag.
Jalen Hurts were right back.
And it was going that way.
Nothing's happening to Quignon. They're not throwing his way. Touchdown.
Yeah, it was a bad day for me.
Jamie was
and then I just bet the Bills too, and they're losing to the Patriots. So.
Tyler says, Vinny, what kind of stuff does a player have to say to earn 2 personal fouls? Doesn't happen often.
I would imagine maybe an off-the-field threat would be one, right?
Or maybe an off-the-field threat, or maybe even the ref probably heard something that, shouldn't have really been said. I'm not going to give.
Some sexual slander, maybe?
You never know, man.
Something like that, I would imagine.
I never seen a player get thrown off the field.
I was going to say, have you ever even seen this?
Nah.
A lot of continued talk about C.J. Gardner-Johnson and how much that changed the game. Matthew says 22 points in the fourth quarter after he left the game. Hezanon says safety depth, edge depth, QB depth, dropped balls. I think all of those things, absolutely, factors in this game. Santiago says without Hurts, the plan needs to be slants and ISO with the fullback. Good luck in hiring an offensive coordinator.
Kari Blossom game.
We didn't get to see one snap with Blossom game.
Yeah,
that was fun. Matthew Greenwood again says, I'm going to say it again, CJ-GJ gets ejected, and we give up 22 points in one quarter. That ejection was the difference in this game.
Wow.
Santiago giving a shout-out to Marissa. And then Harksaw says, with the offensive line issues, after Kenny came in, could any of that be due to how Jalen manages protections pre-snap and Kenny is not as well-versed?
Yeah, I mean, the one sack by Fowler,
right?
Almost like, I'm like 99% that's on, based off the replay we saw, that's on Kenny. You know, but that was one play at the end of the day too. It's one of many plays. That's how I should say it, is that's one of many plays that we could point to and say, like, all right, that goes a different way. Maybe the game is different.
But obviously that is a factor.
Sure.
When you have a backup quarterback coming in, right?
Yeah.
And as part of like, maybe that's the quarterback proofing of having the center be the guy.
I was going to say, like,
I wonder how it works with Pickett. I would imagine that Juergens takes on more responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, that is kind of like I know it. I'm sitting here on like, that's kind of like a run of the mill, like protection.
That one. Okay.
Yeah. Like that one was pretty cut and dry.
Okay.
Like, all right. We're leaving the defensive end unblocked against this blitz look. Like, this ball's got to come out, Kenny. Right. So like that one's not even like, oh, you know, like a second linebacker came through and they weren't expecting and it fooled Kenny. Like, this one was pretty cut and dry. Like, he's that ball's got to come out.
Jake, another super chat, says it made 0 sense to continue running zone read in the run game with Pickett in there. Hell, I barely like it when they do it with Jalen.
Go back to what I said. I would have liked to see Kenny just run a little bit more to keep them honest on their toes.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
And again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Like, that's a way to get the numbers back in your favor, is to run those zone reads.
Right.
So I think that's an answer.
And then Sean dials it back to what you talked about, Jamie, early on, that Saquon drop in the Falcons game. He can't believe that 2 dropped passes are the reason the Eagles aren't going to get the 1 seed. Could be looking at 16-1 if not for those 2 drops.
Yeah, I mean, like, not even like drops like in the third quarter that were like huge swing, but like literal end of the game, you catch it and the game is over drops. Yeah, it's pretty hard to believe.
From 2 of your best players too. Like, that's what makes it tough.
Right, yeah, exactly. Sure.
It's
it wasn't like Jahan Dotson
Jahan,
dropped one or Grant Calcaterra dropped one. It was Saquon Barkley and DeVonta Smith. Yeah, stuff.
All right. Well, that'll do it for the PHLY Eagles postgame show. Any final thoughts, Vinny? You still feel good about this team and their chances of winning the Super Bowl once they get the quarterback back?
Well, just Washington wins. That means Dallas is completely
I believe
eliminated.
so. I believe Dallas has been eliminated.
Look, that's a positive.
Did you guys see the same? Did you see Micah Parsons this week?
No.
He was asked about that and was like, "Oh, like, you're basically like you're, you know,
right,
yeah, like, you know, are you rooting for that outcome so you guys stay alive?" He's like, "Hell no, like I'm not rooting for like I want." He was rooting for the Eagles to lose to stay. Well, no,
even though it would mean that they were eliminated.
Yeah, even though there would be, but
he wants to be here
that
so
means
bad.
that means that the Cowboys are still alive then.
No, I think they've been eliminated.
Okay,
because
he was rooting for the Eagles.
He was rooting for.
No. He was saying it was posed to him,
right?
Like it's better for you if the Eagles win. Are you going to root for the Eagles to win? And he's like, hell no. Like he can't bring himself to root.
Oh
for the
yeah. Okay, sorry. I was backwards. Right, correct. So yeah, that's
right. So they've been eliminated.
Very much in his head.
How about you, Jimmy? You still eyeing tickets to New Orleans?
Yeah. I don't think it phased my outlook at all. Really, I think it's. You know, the defense has been playing at such a high rate now for 10, 11 weeks. Jaden Daniels is an impressive young quarterback. He had his day versus them. Offensively, like Vinny said, I just kind of flushed that one away. I mean, it's Kenny Pickett game.
Yeah.
You were in a position to win it. That's kind of all you can ask for, I guess. I don't think it really changed my postseason outlook at all. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, you know, like I'm going to wake up and go, all right, that was a weird day, huh?
The last time the Eagles dropped a game late in the season with the backup quarterback in, with Marshawn Lattimore on the other side, they went to a Super Bowl.
There you go.
If Carson Wentz was the backup quarterback today, they win that game.
Damn, did I?
I mean, I don't know.
Was that a mic drop right there?
Yeah. I love how you waited until 1 hour and 87 minutes to pull that one out. All right. Should have led with that.
All right. See you later, guys. All right.
Yeah. On that note, that'll do it for the PHLY Eagles postgame show. Make sure that you tell everybody to subscribe to PHLY and check out.
We're less than 100 away. Come on.
Anthony Gargano's show in the morning. And then we are back at 2 o'clock tomorrow, the post-game show, or the regular PHLY Eagles show with Fran and Zach in studio. We'll take you through all week, a nice holiday week going on before the Eagles play the Cowboys next Sunday. We'll see if Jalen Hurts is available, and obviously what the Eagles are playing for moving forward. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody who joined the watch along today. That was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Maybe we'll do some of those again moving forward. But for now, we say good night. Check out the PHLY store. Check out allphly.com to read Zach Berman's story. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.
Someone in the chat just said, if AJ Feely was the quarterback, they win that.